What's the most ducked up thing you've done for money? NSFW. I went to gym class in my underwear. Capital I. Almost made it through without getting caught by the teacher. Edit. I made $30. Late one night in my 20s in Okinawa, an overweight female bartender at a dodgy karaoke bar asked to see my dio, so it was pierced at the time. I quipped that it would cost her $10. She joked back that for $10 I should be naked. Welp. The other bartenders all threw into the pot, including a really attractive one, and so did some of the customers, so mostly dudes who thought it would be funny to call my bluff. All told, I made around $120 to drink a beer in the nude while being jeered by a bunch of drunk expats. Guess I could put semi-pro stripper on my resume. Edit. There it is. Folks, my top comment. More than less than. Whipped my tit out and electrocuted my nipple on an electric fence for $50. I once was bored in my mid-20s, around 3 AM, and I saw a gig on Craigslist. Turned out an escort needed a safe driver to get her to gigs. Not thinking too much about it, I contacted her and spent the rest of the morning driving her around. At one appointment she came downstairs, came to my truck, handed me $20 and told me she needed more condoms. I was taken back but decided what the hell, so I went to the local pharmacy. This was now almost 6 AM, and bought 2 boxes of condoms for her, went back, handed them off, then proceeded to wait for 2 more hours. She eventually came out. I drove her back home, where she paid me $150. I felt so wrong taking the money, knowing she was getting railed for her money, then had to pay me. I took the money anyways and she was pleased. I was a pleasant young man driver. One of the weirdest odd occurrences for me by far. Elementary school dart licked the janitor's mop for $2.35. Thanks for the silver. And no, it's not a euphemism. It did because that's how much 2 slices of pizza cost in the cafetorium. I sold a picture of my girlfriend's feet for $130 to one of her ex-co-workers. I asked her first, of course, but it still felt questionable. Waking up way too early in the morning to go to a place I hate. Not me, but a friend of mine accepted UACUT 346, despite being into degrading sex, hence accepting this. She really had no need for the money. She was so unaroused by the guy that they couldn't get his D inside her, dry like the Sahara, so she wanked him off. No one came out of that experience well. Was at family dinner and my uncle complained that my aunt burnt the green beans. As a joke, he said he would pay anyone $50 to eat the whole bowl. He did not expect me to take him on the offer. This was a dinner bowl meant for like 14 people. So that night I didn't eat an actual dinner, just an obscene amount of green beans. Surprised I didn't barf and I had interesting weird its for the next 2 days. Edit. You bet your ass I got the money. Surgically implanting a neodymium magnet in someone's finger so they could sense magnetic fields. Let a crawdad pinch my nipple. Ducker was far stronger than I thought and ended up drawing blood. I essentially had my nipple pierced for $1. I used to give myself paper cuts for money in high school. Earlobe, eyelid, top or bottom, finger webbing, etc. People paid way too much for that. My friend offered me $20 to have a staring competition with a hooker in Amsterdam. I went right up to the glass and stared at her for around 30 seconds before she opened the door and threw boiling water over me. She lost and I got the money. Answered a Craigslist ad to kick a guy in the balls and walk on him for $160. Like the easy gig and the money. Made about $10k doing that afterwards and went to Europe for 2 months. I sold a bag of my fesses online. Frozen and vacuum sealed it and sent it in a flat package. Made $14 off it. A friend of mine who is now a Marine wanted to punch me in the face as hard as he could. So of course I said no, but then we agreed on the stomach for $30. It stung like a itch but not enough to stop him from doing it again for another 10. Someone left an envelope full of money in a booth of one of the tables at a restaurant I worked at. I didn't even think twice about it at the time. Just pocketed it for rent. Bothers me to this day that I didn't make an effort to return it to its rightful owner. I spent 5 years in China teaching ESL. In addition to the school I worked for, I took private students as well. One was a successful but bored plastic surgeon. 90% of his business was the same 3 surgeries, so he wanted to learn English to break up the tedium. He would call me at random times with little or no notice and ask if I wanted to come over and give him a lesson. So one night he called me to come to his office. Very normal, but when I got there the nurse was giving me booties and a hairnet and telling me to scrub my hands. Before I knew it, I was in the operating room giving him an English lesson while he performed a nose job. I kid you not, I barely made it through. The surgery channel makes me lightheaded, and I was catching the live show. Pretty much scarred for life now. Edit. He wasn't performing surgery on me. It was someone else's nose job. I was just an observer. It was a violation of like all known procedures of sterility and cleanliness in the OR. 2. China is basically the Wild West. I was a waiter at a restaurant with a prep line that had mayo on it. There was only one dish that used mayo that no one ordered. So this mayo would sit out all day and get this foul yellow skin. I bet a buddy $100 to eat the skin right before the shift started. I spooned off the whole bucket myself and it was a heaping scoop. He powered through it, but not long after he was absolutely green. We are still friends. Once I sold my own blood to a local blood bank to buy gas to drive 2 hours to see my ex-girlfriend and win her back, who then cancelled. Barely made rent and hadn't eaten in 3 days. Was a rough post-breakup year for me. Found an ad on Craigslist for some guy that was willing to pay someone to lock him in a cage and pee on him. $50 later I had enough cheap noodles and sriracha to not go hungry for a while. Steal porno mags from the corner store by my house and then sell them to horny kids at my middle school. This was around 1998 to 1999, before everyone had smartphones and high-speed internet. Stole from family. Pawned everything I had. Helped a dude shake down his knocks who owed him money and drove him all over town until he threw a handful of drugs at me and laughed as I scrambled to pick him up. Yeah. That was like 8 years ago and life is much better now off the drugs. I sold an item from EverQuest. Bone clasped girdle. Ike. From Draculician Plane of Fear. I really wanted to keep the item, but I also really wanted $450 to be able to cover my rent. Sucked D. Took D. Touched D. I went to a place that charged me $100,000 in order to work at a job that pays me $20,000. When I was about 17 I got offered $500 to rob my dealer's weed supply. I did. And then I spent the next 6 months hitting myself that if he ever found out it was me he'd probably hunt me down and gut me like a fish. But the guy kept it in a massive ducking backpack in his shed. I mean, come on dude. It was just so easy. To explain the economics of this, it was probably 30-40 ounces of weed in that bag. So thousands worth. I was paid $3 to eat a lemon scented wet nap. It was in high school, and I'm not proud. Also, I quickly discovered that lemon scented did not translate to lemon flavored. I was once paid $1 per second to lay face down in the snow, naked. I made $300 before my friends ran out of cash. Same group of fellows offered to pay me $500 to pepper spray me. I told them make it $600 and don't tell me it's coming. Man, I made $900 of them idiots. I sold the rights to YouTube videos I didn't even own or make to some Canadian company for $900. As a former male escort, I'd say working at Hot Dog on a Stick. I let my brother run over my foot for a can of ravioli. I used to know a couple who ran an adult baby nursery. IF was paid $25 an hour to dress up in cute, frilly outfits and spend time with adult men who wanted to be treated like babies. At one point I spent an hour watching Thunderbads episodes with a client. That was what all he wanted to do. I personally don't consider it ducked up, but I'm sure some people reading this won't know how to feel about it. I stuck my tongue to a pole in the middle of a northern Minnesotan winter for $5 that was never paid. I beat up a guy to get $1,000 for a girl I knew. She gave me $200 of it. Drunk toilet water in the nude for cash on a webcam. I used to sell random nudes I found online. Had to save up for an MP3 somehow. Honestly, it wasn't really that bad. Call me boring, but the most I made was $100 when someone in high school paid me to write their final paper. It wasn't even a hard paper to do. I guess she was just lazy. Anyway, I made her pay me half up front and half after she got a passing grade. Anyway, word got around and I ended up being paid to do small things like finish people's homework or write papers. Someone even paid me $50 to change the answers on his test to get at least a C but no more than a B. I used to help one of our teachers grade papers and tests. They were actually pretty secretive about it and I'm glad no adults found out because I would have been in a lot of trouble. Was a stripper. Had a regular client pay me to drink then have me ask him for permission to piss. I have overactive bladder syndrome so this often resulted in me pissing myself. He always tipped more and paid for a new outfit for me when that happened. Had a strictly heterosexual three-way with another dude and a girl for $40. Can't say I regret it either. Unclogged a garage drain with a cumulative 20 years of sludge and filth blocking it. Gag. I was a cashier. Karen is real, and she wants to talk to your manager. My girlfriend sold panties to a man for $250 as long as he could see her take them off in front of him. We were hard up for money so I'd drive her there and keep an eye on her. Then one day we had sex in front of him for $400. He complimented the size of my D and then never emailed again. I think I destroyed the fantasy for him. A dude begged me to finger my ass for $150. Don't regret it at all. When I was a kid, I filmed my neighbors having sex to sell copies of the tapes to other kids at school. They had a big bay window, and if I sat on my roof I could see right in. They thought they had privacy on that side of the house since we were the only nearby neighbors and there was a large cedar hedge between the houses, up on an embankment. But sitting up on the roof I could see right in. No problem. When I told kids at school about it, one kid stole his parents' video camera and some tapes and then we split the profits from selling the tapes. Pretty good money for the time. $10 per copy. But yeah, pretty ducked up when I think about it. I did a stint on a FPSO. FPSO equals floating production, storage and offloading. Basically a big ass boat that they use for oil production. Except it stores the oil on board. Anyways, the ship was so crowded for commissioning that every morning and evening I got to ride this glorified birdcage into a smaller boat that I called the Vomit Comet. Because the motion was nasty and was pretty puke filled. My favorite part, besides the questionable food, was the prison-like atmosphere. Like once the weather was really bad so we sailed to a small international port which was also a UN refugee holding center. And we walked around the parking lots for like 3 hours and were super happy. Oh, and the bloody rags all over the hallway. Good times. Was at the pub playing poker. I lost early. Nothing unusual. However, I was standing behind a friend when I noticed a 20 on the floor beside him. I knew it wasn't his. He's poorer than me. He also pays my bills. That's a different issue. I did the whole throw your foot on it to cover it. Drag it closer, casually drop wallet so nobody suspects anything. Success. Not my finest moment. But $20 is $20. I'm thick. Very thick. At parties, I bet money that my erect member is too large to fit in a Pringles can. I have a routine that makes the choice of gauge seem spontaneous. I sold dirt online. Authentic Louisiana voodoo soil. To be exact, the listing on eBay was literally just me talking about how I live in La. And the dirt would be from my backyard and would possibly contain anything from grass to bugs, etc. Sold 2 pounds of it to 2 diff buyers for about $40 total. Turns out there are dirt collectors in the world and they like to win auctions. How'da thunk it. I used to write smut on commission. Based out of a forum on a fanfic site, I had a scale for pay by pages. Plus I'd negotiate for certain types of content. Wholesome story about spending time with a dead lover. Imagine Swayze in Ghost. Essentially, was a very different rate than a story about ducking Bigfoot. Last story I ever sold like this was about $250 for about 20 pages. So, extremely expensive, about an incestuous same-sex rape. I was 15. I spent 5 years in the Corps, and that story is the thing that most haunts me. When I was homeless, I hung around with some other homeless people. It's really interesting. Actually, lots of different cliches. Some worse than others. Kinda like school but all adults, young adults. Anyway, I quickly realize who to avoid, junkies and alcoholics, and find out where the junkies hide their stash at night. Since we all lived out of a homeless shelter, I waited until everyone was in for the night. Middle of winter, -10°C. I stay out all night, nearly freeze to death, but managed to score 10 plus hypodermic needles and the heroin to go with them. Not my proudest moment, but it got me 300 and apparently the person who has belonged to cleaned up shortly after, so I don't feel too bad about it. Not sure if I got undercut, but I gave them to a friend better connected than me in the underground side of my city. So if he took a seller's fee, I really can't blame him. Not necessarily ducked up, but I recently made $300 by FedEx my poop to a university. I'm a twin and it was for a study. My twin did the same. For $200, my friend rode a horse though a McDonald's drive-thru and got 20 chicken nuggets. Gambled most of my life savings. Met a guy I'd been camming for in person because he was local, so stupid, and ended up giving him a blowjob and then cuddling for like 2 hours. He ended up talking about how he wanted a girlfriend, and I had to awkwardly be like, welp, I should go. Never met anyone from that section of my life in person again. Drank a glass of unknown liquids that friends made in 8th grade. Ended up getting jaundice 2 days later and full on liver failure in the hospital for 2 weeks after that. So many things were added that the doctors couldn't identify the root cause and I just had to wait it out or end up getting a liver transplant. But I earned a $0.25. Was bartending at a very busy city nightclub catering to the after work Friday corporates. In a small busy back bar next to the dance floor that has only myself and another staff member. Our section was about as busy as any bar can be. Anyway, this suited smarmy twat is leaning all over the bar trying to chat up girls. Taking up all the space meaning no one else could get served. Asked him once, twice, 3 times for his order and each time he stated he turned away to tell some joke or slimy pickup line. Totally knobhead. He takes out his wallet, and as he takes his eyes off me again and looks towards a girl, about $1,000 in $100 notes falls out and plops into my ice well. Time slows down. I speed up. I bury that ducking cash with ice in a nanosecond. He looks back at me knowing something has happened but can't tell what. I then politely offer to pay for his drink if he would like to complete his order. He orders, takes his drinks and leaves. I wait 10 minutes and recover the cash along with a baggie of coke that fell into the ice well. By the end of the night, my fellow bartender and I had finished the coke and spent the cash. When I was in school and really broke, I had a mutual friend call me asking to use my truck. This guy was really sketchy and offered me $800 to help him with something. Basically he sold coke for another guy, delivering it through the mail, and he forgot to address 2 packages containing a lot of coke and put them in a mailbox. He wanted me to help him steal the whole mailbox and load it into my truck. It was incredibly stupid, but everything worked out. Although I'm pretty sure just waiting by the mailbox all day for the postal worker would have worked too. Kinda miss those days. I'm a straight guy and I knew a gay man who I was acquaintances with. He always joked with me and hit on me. One day I was hard up for cash and I asked to borrow $40. He said he would give me $80 if I let him suck my D. I thought real hard and figured duck it, I ain't gay and I am broke. I'll just close my eyes. Was very strange getting a BJ while not being aroused mentally or into it. Whether it was intentional or not, I once drunk stripped for my bar manager for her birthday party at the bar we worked at that led to my promotion to assistant manager. Sold fake acid to some kid when we were both in high school. Literally sold the dude little squares off my homework for 15 a pop. He came back 4-5 more times. Genuinely never understood why. I was flat broke, walking through the grocery store, trying to figure out how to feed my wife and myself for another week until payday using the $7 in my pocket. I turned down an aisle to look at the canned beans and saw a $20 bill on the ground. Nobody was around, so I snatched it up and stuck it in my pocket. A flood of relief washed over me, and I stood there for a minute trying to decide how to spend it. Then a father and his son turned down the aisle, looking worried, head sweeping back and forth as they searched the floor. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. We'll find it. The father told his kid. As they passed, he asked me, I'm sorry, you didn't happen to see some money on the ground, did you? Without even a second's hesitation, I replied, no, sorry, didn't see anything. They kept moving. I got my groceries and went home. I've done a lot of icky things in my life, but that one sticks with me. Sold 24 inches of hair to a man with a hair fetish for $1,500. I have no regrets. Put my head through a window at a party for a half full box of beers. Needless to say, I went to hospital, got 13 stitches in my nose and never received the beers. And yes, I have photos for anyone who wants to see the cartilage in my nose. I've changed a paraplegic man's diaper about 6 times so far tonight. I've spent probably an hour and a half in there total. So with my base rate plus night shift incentive, probably $18.20, pre-tax and deductions. I let a dude hit me in the head with a high school English textbook. Pretty sure it gave me a mild concussion. Booty made $10. I gave oral sex to a family member for 2 months rent. I ate 2 ghost peppers for $100. My great uncle was saying that if anyone is able to eat it and not freak out cry, he would pay them $100, so my mom called me, thinking it would be funny. So I walked over to their house, ate them both and got paid. Honestly, the hardest I've ever had to hold my head together. I have a blank face, red and little bit of tears streaming down but I didn't complain once or freak out. Took the money, then proceeded to down a bunch of milk. It really doesn't help, but while it's still in your mouth it stops for a sec. Also had the worst stomach pains after that, lol.